officers not showing up. That a citizen would call in a complaint to their dispatch, and either dispatch would tell them, hey, this is a minor crime, we're not coming, or they just wouldn't show up, and that's that's not right for anybody who's expecting law enforcement services in their community.
No, it's not, and it's been highlighted in the media about all of the unprocessed evidence, rape kits not being processed, firearms all over the place. Tell me a little bit more about the state of the department once you had to step in.
That was unlike anything I've ever seen in 37 years, and we've collected so far over 3,000 pieces of evidence or property. There are several hundred firearms that there's no label attached, no case number, nothing to explain why that was even in their property room. So, tying that to a case, whether it be a theft, a recovery, a homicide, is going to be virtually impossible, and without being able to link why that was being stored in the property room.
Well, it sounds like if you were a victim of crime in Pritchard, that the odds of a some type of resolution to the situation being very difficult in Pritchard back under that old administration. It sounds like a lot of people did not get any form of justice in Pritchard.
That's fair to say, and we have, at the request of the district attorney, have gone back and some from requests from families over the last few years have gone back and looked at some of the old homicides, and we've solved some of them.
Really?
And we're continuing to look at those unsolved cases to see what we can do to bring justice to those families, and because they deserve that.
Hey, before the DA's office stepped in and there were the indictments, how was the sheriff's department? Please remind me and the listeners, how was the sheriff's department already handling things in Pritchard? You were already helping out.
We were. We've been doing their crime scene investigations for a number of years at the request of the former DA, Ashley Rich. And a couple years ago, probably 3 years ago, the DA asked us if we would work the homicides there. So we began doing that.
No, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Actually, homicides and violent crimes.
So, it was requested by the DA's office that the sheriff's department take over. I'm going to guess because they were not able to prosecute otherwise, because things were not being handled.
That's fair. That's very fair to say. There was some mismanagement of evidence. There was some lack of integrity on a part of some of their detectives, one of which was the one that started this whole thing, or was the tip of the spear. Mm-hmm. And he was one of their homicide guys for a while. So yeah, it was mainly a lack of integrity on some of the officers involved there. And so we decided to, we agreed to do that. And I had to add another detective to our major crimes unit. And so far, they've handled it, but, they could use a little more help too. But
well, you've already told me in this conversation you've never seen anything like it in your career. And I know that there's been a recommendation by the DA and a grand jury about the police department. Do you think they can continue on with it, or will they have to abolish their police department?
I think ultimately they're going to have to abolish the police department. And then, and something I want to be clear about too is I don't look for this to be a permanent thing. What I'd like to do is for the city of Pritchard to contract with the county commission, because they're our funding source. That's who the contract has to be negotiated through.
Right.
And because the way I tell people, I provide a service. You give me the money and I'll provide the service. But ultimately that's going to have to happen. But my long-term goal is to help them build a police department that is sustainable and that the citizens trust and are able to perform the services that a professional law enforcement agency should provide.
Okay. We've got to take a quick timeout, a brief break here. When we come back, more with Sheriff Burch here on News Radio 710 WNTM, the Uncle Henry Show.
Have been on the scene of a stalled vehicle. It's been moved to the right shoulder, I-10 westbound, approaching Battleship Parkway. Heading across the Bayway from the eastern shore to the tunnel, it's now a 10-minute drive. Also, we've got some slow-going traffic on Highway 31 in both directions from Spanish Fort to Highway 59. It's a 19-minute drive. With Time Saver Traffic, I'm Lisa Bakke.
This report is sponsored by Lowe's. Now at Lowe's, faster quotes start at Lowe's Pro Desk. Got a material list handwritten on a sticky note or saved as a photo? Perfect. Bring it in and get a quote in minutes. Plus, access thousands of products beyond what's in store or on Lowe's.com, right from the Lowe's Pro Desk.
If you see traffic trouble, call the Acadian Windows traffic tip line at pound 250, keyword total traffic when prompted. Acadian Windows, your hurricane protection specialists.
Back to school is almost here. With iHeartRadio's Thank a Teacher, your business can support local educators, connect with families, and be part of a message your next customers already care about. Get your business into the back-to-school conversation today. Visit iHeartAdvertising.com.
You know her from the Today Show.
I personally think joy is a choice.
Now, Hoda Kotb hosts the Joy 101 podcast, joined by actors, athletes, experts, and everyday people who have found joy.
Even in the darkest times.
Don't get ready, people. Be ready. Be ready for the opportunity.
It takes work to rise above things.
The number one problem with communication is the illusion that it has taken place.
I mean, nothing's going to happen in your apartment.
Find your inspiration. Download the free iHeartRadio app. Search Joy 101 and listen now.
I'm not great with words after a fight, and I'm sorry wasn't cutting it this time. So I used Smile Tunes to write a soulful ballad about how she's always right. By the second chorus, the silent treatment was officially over. Visit SmileTunes.com and get out of the doghouse today.
From the Peden Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electrical Weather Center.
Skies turn mostly clear overnight tonight. We'll see lows in the mid-70s. Tomorrow, plenty of sunshine and hot. Highs in the low 90s with only isolated showers and storms. We could see a heat index up around 107. I'm Fox 10 News Chief Meteorologist Jason Smith of this iHeartRadio station.
This report is sponsored by the Our American Stories podcast.
This is Lee Habib, host of Our American Stories. On our next episode, we'll explain how a divided room during the American Revolution found unity in a single prayer. You won't want to miss the next episode of Our American Stories.
Now, your chance at $1,000 and a trip to our iHeart Radio Music Festival. Text the nationwide keyword music to 200-200. You'll get a confirmation text and info. Standard data and message rates apply in this nationwide contest. That's music to 200-200.
As an educator, Mr. Nelson's teachings are still being quoted in school.
Everyone can rise above their circumstances if they are dedicated and passionate.
Today, Nelson Mandela's teachings continue to inspire. Inspiration. Pass it on from PassItOn.com.
This is the Uncle Henry Show here on News Radio 710 WNTM. Mobile County Sheriff Paul Burch is my guest this hour. And Sheriff Burch, I want to ask you a little bit more about the work that your department is doing in Pritchard. Now, I've noticed on social media, I don't know if you're getting this in person, but I noticed on social media some people complaining, some Pritchard folks complaining about the Sheriff's Department being in Pritchard. But in the last segment of the show, you told me that the people in Pritchard generally are glad you're there.
Right. Overwhelming support of us being there. And there have been some complaints, but they're complaints, well, your deputies, stopped me and, they wrote me some tickets, and I'm not a big ticket person. But,
right.
But,
right.
When I dig into that, well, you got tickets because you had no tag, a suspended driver's license.
Yes.
And you're not used to contact with law enforcement. And so there have been no demeanor complaints where they've said deputies were rude or, mistreated anyone. They're just not used to law enforcement contact. And, that's how, when you address the little things, is how you get to the big things. So, if you don't want law enforcement contact, don't be riding around breaking the law.
Well, exactly. But the way I've come to understand this just from watching news items on it and reading about it, it seems like there was a, and you talked about how officers wouldn't show up a lot of times when people called for help. it sounds like that this is what it's like not to have a police department in some ways, is the way it was in Pritchard.
Correct.
So is there a culture shock for some when they actually are being policed for the first time in a few years?
Obviously there is. And again, and when you're not used to that interaction with law enforcement, you're going to form your own opinion, whether it's positive or negative. But I would say overwhelmingly, we get a lot of thank yous for being there every single day.
Now, it was last week, a week ago, that you had that meeting with the public, and there were officials there. Does the Pritchard mayor and city council, are they glad the sheriff's department is stepping in?
Well, yes, they are glad to have us there right now because the department's in such disarray. I mean, you had your top brass arrested and indicted. And so what you have right now are mainly patrol officers, and what they've been doing is mainly working traffic collisions and doing minor things like that. So a really big thing with as far as rebuilding that department, my understanding from AMAC and some other insurance companies, because they've lost all their liability insurance, is they will not insure them as long as the police department's intact. Until such time, they're able to rebuild and reestablish that, trust within the.
So their ability to get insured depends on them making a dramatic change with their police department, whether they hire somebody from out of town, some consultant, somebody to come in and revamp it.
That's my understanding. And again, looking long term, the ideal goal would be to help them rebuild that department. But they're, I don't know what the revenue situation is in Pritchard, but they're obviously going to have to raise the pay of their chief, and they're going to have to raise the pay of their officers to bring in, quality personnel, or you're going to run into the same problem. And what their chiefs pay is about the same as what a starting deputy makes. So, that's going to be tough to bring somebody in that, especially anybody from out of town.
Have you, now I know this is not your area, but do you get an indication that there's going to be any help for Pritchard maybe from the state, from their legislative delegation?
That I can't answer.
Right.
I know we have reached out, and they have reached out. There needs to be some kind of assistance, but what we've, as far when you mentioned the state, what it will look like, if things go forward like I anticipate, we will do the patrol services there for a period of time under contract, and state troopers will step in and work the traffic accidents.
Okay. So this, so you're anticipating, although nothing is set in stone, you're anticipating that eventually Pritchard is going to contract with the sheriff's department, at least in the short term?
I believe so, yes. I feel pretty good about that.
And so state troopers will have an increased presence along with the sheriff's department? Correct,
yeah, because we do not work traffic accidents, and that's true about most sheriff's offices around the state. It's my understanding a long ago agreement that we will work all the criminal stuff and the state will do the traffic stuff.
So talk a bit more. You mentioned this in the first segment of our conversation, but talk a little bit more about the impact on the county and the sheriff's department in terms of your budget. I mean, this is almost like being hit by a hurricane.
It's blown our budget out of the water, and historically, and it's almost like a shell game. As long as I can remember, because I've kind of been in upper administration for a number of years, it's like you ask for X, and you only get B.
Right.
Way down the
right.
scale.
Yes.
So obviously you ask for a little more than what you think you might need, but we have never gotten what we know that we need.
Right.
And especially when that comes to overtime and training. One of those and our argument has long been that with overtime, I mean, we can look at the last 10 years and tell you what has been required for overtime. But we've never been given that funding, so we know we're going to go over each year. When we can say, okay, we project. I mean, you can predict Mardi Gras and major events, but you can't predict things like barricaded people where the SWAT team has to be deployed. And,
right.
If that goes on all day, that's a $10,000 to $15,000 event, and all day and through the night. So, and that's just in personnel. That's not the equipment that's involved, and so those kind of things you can't predict. Or lost children, lost elderly people, and that happens frequently. We can look and say, okay, last 10 years, this is what we've needed, this is what we're given. So we're over budget every year because we're not being given what we know that historically is needed to run the department.
And now you have this situation where you have to also act as the police department for a small town.
Yeah, it has, I don't want to say strained my relationship with the commissioners, but it's one of those things that I'm obligated to do. And that's, I don't like the word takeover, and that's what's frequently used. But I didn't just wake up one day and decide, okay, we're going to go, run Pritchard's Police Department or provide their law enforcement services. After those first few arrests, I felt it was my obligation to make sure that the citizens in Pritchard have law enforcement services, and because they're paying taxes too for those services, and also that we are very familiar with where some of the criminals are in Pritchard, and we would rather address the problem in Pritchard than have to just let things run wild and then try to come and address the problem.
Now, does Pritchard also have its own jail?
They used to. I mean, they
used to.
They have the facility, but they haven't used their jail in a number of years. That's where a lot of that property was just stacked inside old cells. And so it was, again, that was unlike anything I have ever seen.
So there was there was just old equipment. I mean, we've got rooms here where we've got just old computer monitors and things stacked up. So you had old equipment and stuff, and maybe evidence stacked up in jail cells.
I don't want to say old equipment, property from somewhere, and property, seized property, evidence, just tossed into cells.
One more thing on the finances of this. The whole Pritchard situation impacts, I guess, all the taxpayers in Mobile County. Even if you're not interested in what's going on, it's affecting you because it's your tax dollars are going to
Absolutely.
If you live in Mobile County.
Yep. So we're going to meet later today and kind of see what a true bare bones patrol squad would look like. Right now, because I've talked with the mayor several times, and given them some numbers. But I'm not going, if we're going to do this, I'm going to make sure it's done in a safe manner for my deputies. I'm not going to put it in such a bare bone or minimal size squad where it puts them in danger. I mean, we're going to make sure we have adequate coverage, adequate backup, and such, and we have to hire some more dispatchers for that call volume.
Okay, we're going to take a timeout for news headlines, then more with Mobile County Sheriff Paul Burch on the Uncle Henry Show.
Fox News, I'm John Saucier. Marine veteran and Massachusetts teacher Robert Gilman returning home to the U.S. after serving 4 years in a Russian prison on charges of beating a police officer. Allegations his family disputes. Senator Ed Markey telling reporters Gilman was abused while he was locked up.
Physical torture to forced medication and provocations.
President Trump says no one was exchanged in return for Gilman. He'll touch down at Andrews Air Force Base in Maryland before treatment at a military hospital in Texas. Across Ohio, severe weather alerts are being put into place. Strong storms bringing extreme winds and rain, possible tornado threats. Ohio's Governor is Mike DeWine.
This is the time to use common sense. We all do stupid things, and we all make mistakes. This is not the time to do that. This is the time to really, really pay attention.
Governor DeWine says they're bringing in the National Guard's high water teams to help out with any potential flooding. If you're in Ohio, please use caution. America's listening to Fox News.
It's just hours now from the first polls closing in today's primary elections going on in 6 states. Key contests are playing out in Alabama, Connecticut, Minnesota, Vermont, Wisconsin, and in South Carolina, where there's a special Senate primary after the unexpected death of longtime Republican Senator Lindsey Graham. The state's governor appointed Graham's sister, Darlene, to serve out the remainder of his term. She's running against a crowded Republican field for today's primary. The jury selection process is now in its second day in the Tupac Shakur murder trial going on in Las Vegas. Dwayne Davis is accused of orchestrating the murder in 1996 and faces life in prison without parole if convicted. On Monday, more than 20 of the potential 75 jurors were excused. A former U.S. Marine, Robert Gilman, is on his way back home to the U.S. after being released from a Russian jail. Gilman had been in Russian custody since 2022 after being arrested for allegedly kicking a police officer while drunk. I'm Scott Carr.
Time saver traffic from the Main Street Flooring and Design Traffic Center.
If you're traveling on I-10 westbound, just getting word of a vehicle fire between I-110 and Pensacola Boulevard. And if you're traveling on the Bayway westbound, it's looking pretty good. A breakdown was moved to the right shoulder on I-10 westbound approaching Battleship Parkway. With Time Saver Traffic, I'm Lisa Bakke.
This report is sponsored by Staples. All right, it's officially the most wonderful time of the year at Staples. They've got back-to-school supplies as low as 25 cents, up to 40% off select tech, 20% off for teachers, and more. Check out all the deals at staples.com/back-to-school. Staples, that was easy.
If you see traffic trouble, call the Acadian Windows traffic tip line at pound 250, keyword total traffic when prompted. Acadian Windows, your hurricane protection specialists.
Hey, Uncle Henry here, and I've got 2 people with me who know how to help you make sense of your money. John McNeil and Virginia O'Brien from Mobile Bay Financial Solutions.
Thanks, Uncle Henry. With the economy continuing to shift, there's never been a more crucial time to take control of your financial future. Whether you're planning for retirement or just trying to protect what you've built, we're here to help you do it with confidence.
That's right. We're local, we're trusted, and we're ready to guide you through uncertain times. Call us today at 251-666-5000 for a free financial checkup. That's 251-666-5000. Let's make sure your money is working as hard as you are.
Mobile Bay Financial Solutions. Smart planning right here at home.
Advisory services offered through Mobile Bay Financial Services, LLC, an Alabama-registered investment advisor. We can offer investment advice in states where we are registered, exempt, or excluded from registration. The material contained herein should not be construed as an offer or solicitation for investment advice, securities, insurance, or other investment products.
Healthy, beautiful skin starts with the right care. At Advanced Dermatology and Skincare Center, our board-certified dermatologists combine experience and technology to help you achieve your healthiest, most confident look. Whether it's advanced laser treatments, medical-grade skincare products, or today's most effective cosmetic procedures, we have personalized solutions for you. This month, save $25 off laser hair removal and $200 off SmartGraft hair transplantation. Schedule today by calling Advanced Dermatology and Skincare Center or visit advanceddermclinic.com.
Hey, Mom, now that I have an after-school job, I think I want to buy a drum kit.
Okay, rock star. Let's look at your account. When kids start making money, Chase has easy-to-use tools and expert bankers to help them learn how to manage it.
And next month, I'll buy the bass drum and the cymbals. Oh, and maybe some noise-canceling headphones for you.
Aw, you've thought of everything. Help kids save, budget, and build financial independence, all with Chase. That's good for kids and good for parents. Visit your local Chase branch and get started.
Account subject to approval. J.P. Morgan Chase Bank, N.A. member FDIC.
Here's the tale of the daily med fill. Same old pharmacy, same old bill. But those prices kept rising higher still.
Till the savings wrangler rode in. Cool as can be. Tap GoodRx. Saving massively.
No plan? Don't matter none. Up to 80% off. The deals are done.
Discounts hitting harder than Ma's chili. Dang. That one little app does all the rest.
Save time and money on prescriptions.
Check GoodRx. GoodRx is not insurance.
In a recent survey of 123,000 wireless customers, Pure Talk was the only wireless company to receive 5 stars in every category: coverage, support, value, and data. What else do you need to know? Switch to Pure Talk today and get any plan, including their top shelf unlimited data plan, for just $15 a month for your first 3 months. No contract, no commitment. Dial pound 250, say micro, and let Pure Talk's U.S. customer service team help you make the switch.
Workdays work better with food, and not just any food.
the good stuff. That's why there's Easy Cater, the workplace food platform where you can order from a huge variety of great restaurants for any group size, anytime, anywhere, all in one place. Whether it's gourmet deli trays for the client meeting, spicy noodles for the night shift, tacos for the weekend crew, or a big box of brownies to tell your team, thank you. Just use Easy Cater, one platform to feed them all and feed them well. Start an order at easycater.com.
Teachers make a difference each and every day. Now's your chance to say thanks. iHeartRadio's Thank a Teacher powered by Donors Choose. Nominate an outstanding public school teacher who goes above and beyond for students. They could be one of our $5,000 winners for classroom supplies and resources. Teachers give so much. Now it's our turn to give back. Nominate a teacher now at iHeartRadio.com/teachers.
The Uncle Henry Show continues here on News Radio 710 WNTM. Our conversation with Mobile County Sheriff Paul Burch. Sheriff Burch, we're back here on the Uncle Henry Show. And again, I want to thank you for taking the time to do this. I know how incredibly busy you are with everything going on with Pritchard. Aside from Pritchard, we've talked about Pritchard for half the show. How are things going for the Sheriff's Department in the rest of Mobile County?
Going well, other than, having to pull some resources from other divisions. It's caused a slight increase in response times, in the unincorporated areas in the county when we have a call for service. Another thing that, we've kind of been focusing on the last few weeks is getting our school resource deputies ready for school to come back in and making sure they've got what they need. And, we're hoping for another safe school year. And that's such a wonderful program that we're partnered with the school system on. And, my hopes are to increase, the number of deputies in those schools. And it's my understanding that they're also talking with Mobile PD to supplement that. And so just a lot of little things in a short amount of time, but overall, I think it's going well in the county.
Sheriff Burch, please, for the listeners that are not familiar with how the Sheriff's Department works with the schools, can you describe the relationship that you have with the school system?
So there have never been law enforcement in the schools throughout Mobile County. There are 90 public schools in Mobile County. And the agreement that we came up with a few years ago was to they funded positions for 12 deputies because there are 12 high schools in Mobile County. And those deputies went through the training that all school resource officers go through, and they're assigned individually to those high schools, and then throughout the day, they move around and go to the feeder schools, the middle schools and elementary schools that feed those particular high schools. And, and that's to protect our children and the staff in the schools. And we have, last school year, 2 incidents where people tried to bring weapons into a school that we were able to catch before they made it into the school. And my hopes one day, again, this is all about money, is to be able to have law enforcement, whether it's all deputies or a combination of deputies and municipal officers in every high school and middle school, because that's usually where the problems, begin, or in the middle schools and high schools.
What kind of feedback are you getting?
Well, again, it's all about, obviously the teachers and parents would love to have that.
They would.
But again, it's all about funding.
Right. And when a resource officer is there, what kind of things are they doing?
They're, number one, their vehicle is parked where it's very visible. That's the first deterrent. If somebody, wants to walk up and, do the unthinkable. But they also are there to build those relationships with the staff at the school, the teachers, the administration, and the kids. I mean, we do things throughout the year with the kids to help foster those relationships, and it has worked really, really well.
So it's I can tell by the way you're talking about it, you think this is very important to have.
Extremely important, and that relationship with law enforcement can really, change a kid's perspective. You don't know what their home life is like, but when they develop that relationship with that deputy, then they get a different perspective on law enforcement than what they may get at home. And there sadly have been a few cases where, they have revealed things that were going on to those deputies because they built that relationship, and which resulted in criminal charges against an adult. And and as they grow and then graduate, they'll have a different thought of what law enforcement really does, and in hopes some of them may become involved in law enforcement one day when they're eligible.
So a resource officer, you mentioned that there were incidents where people tried to bring weapons onto the school grounds. What are some other ways that a resource officer might have to act in a school day? Do they ever break up fights, things like that?
Well, that's a case by case situation. Sure, they would help break up a fight if it was in their presence, but one thing that I always try to get across is they are there for the physical security of the students and the staff in the school. They're not there to write up reports for vehicle break-ins, and that's because that ties them up from being able to monitor what's going on around the school. They patrol throughout the schools, inside, around the perimeter, parking lot, every day. And like I said, they have to hit several schools. But, there's been some discussions of, transporting, if something were to occur, and that can take them away from school for 2 hours.
Right.
And that's in the contract. It's spelled out what their duties are. And they're not, the only time they should be leaving that school is if they're going to another school.
So their main purpose is to protect and not to do any other type of policing.
Right. Yeah.
So, and the school system really likes having this.
They do. And again, they would love to expand it, but it's all about, having the money to pay for it.
Okay. What about outside of the schools? Well, I have one more thing about schools. Any changes in the types of patrolling or cases the sheriff's department deals with once school is in?
I would say your it's commonly referred to as petty crimes, but those tend to decline when school goes back in. You can count on every year when school is out for the summer, your vandalism cases go up, your vehicle break-ins go up, and I think a lot of it's just kids having too much time on their hands, and those usually trickle back down, when school starts.
Okay, so that is one change with the school system. Sheriff Burch, it's been a couple of months since you've been on the show. You've been very busy these last couple of months. The last time you were here was right before your primary, and so I want to congratulate you on winning your primary.
Well, thank you.
What was that like? It looked like it was quite a bit of fun that night.
It was a lot of fun. We had the campaign team and supporters put in a lot of hard work during the campaign, while campaigning, and it was glad to see such a positive result in the end. And there was overwhelming support, throughout the campaign season, but also that showed up, at the celebration.
Well, I've talked to some people that work for you, that work in the sheriff's department, some deputies. They told me that they got the feeling that you really, really love what you do, that you're not just there for the position or the pay, that you really enjoy the work. I mean, is that an accurate description of what you do?
Very much so. I say all the time that, the day it stops being fun will be the day I retire. I love what I do. I've always had a passion. Whatever position I'm in, I give it 100%. But I run the sheriff's office like a family and treat everyone like family, and we have very few problems because of it. But yes, I do love what I do, and when it stops being fun, I could have retired a couple years ago had I wanted to.
All right, well, we have more with Sheriff Birch, but we're going to take a quick timeout. More Uncle Henry Show in just a couple of minutes here on News Radio 710 WNTM as we continue with Mobile County Sheriff Paul Birch.
You're traveling in Niceville, getting word of some debris in the roadway on Range Road at Highway 20. Also, a breakdown has been moved to the right shoulder, I-10 westbound on the Bayway, approaching Battleship Parkway. And we have congestion on Highway 31 from Spanish Fort to Highway 59. It's a 19-minute drive. With Time Saver Traffic, I'm Lisa Bakke.
This report is sponsored by Aleve. At some point, body pain may creep in and become your reality that day. But Aleve is here to keep you moving. One pill gives you up to 12 hours of body pain relief. So don't let pain hold you back. Try Aleve today. Use as directed.
If you see traffic trouble, call the Acadian Windows traffic tip line at pound 250, keyword total traffic when prompted. Acadian Windows, your hurricane protection specialists.
Uncle Henry here, reminding you that your home's equity is a valuable tool and can be used for home improvements, like updating or adding a bathroom, which you can enjoy now, and it could increase your home's value. My friends at Gulf Coast Federal Credit Union can help you with a HELOC, a home equity line of credit. Call them at 251-438-7464. Stop by any branch or apply now at gulfcoastfcu.org. That's Gulf Coast Federal Credit Union. Loans subject to approval on approved credit. See website for membership details. NMLS number 440571.
Back to school is almost here. With iHeartRadio's Thank a Teacher, your business can support local educators, connect with families, and be part of a message your next customers already care about. Get your business into the back-to-school conversation today. Call 844-844-iHeart.
For more information about contests on this station, go to newsradio710.com/rules.
Skies turn mostly clear overnight tonight. We'll see lows in the mid-70s. Tomorrow, plenty of sunshine and hot. Highs in the low 90s with only isolated showers and storms. We could see a heat index up around 107. I'm Fox 10 News Chief Meteorologist Jason Smith of this iHeartRadio station.
This report is sponsored by the Our American Stories podcast.
This is Lee Habib, host of Our American Stories. On our next episode, we'll share the story of the eccentric inventor who changed how Americans ate, Clarence Birdseye. You won't want to miss the next episode of Our American Story.
Did you know that on average we make 35,000 choices a day? Some good, some not so good. I'm Jenny Garth, and I have a brand new podcast called I Choose Me. Those 3 words, I choose me, were said by my character, Kelly Taylor, on Beverly Hills 90210, way back in 1995. What started as a line in a script has become a guiding force for me. I've learned that loving yourself is not selfish, because when you choose yourself, you unlock a life that aligns with your values and passions. On this pod, I am going to share my life with you on a whole new level. Let's start choosing ourselves. Listen to I Choose Me on the iHeartRadio app.
The Uncle Henry Show continues here on News Radio 710 WNTM. News headlines coming up in less than 10 minutes. Back with Mobile County Sheriff Paul Birch. Now it's been a couple of months since you've been on the Uncle Henry Show. In the last segment of the show, I asked you about your reelection. One more thing on that. Did you feel pride that you did so well?
I did. We expected to win, but not with those numbers. I mean, it was a significant win. And I think a lot of that was because, it's no secret, there's a lot of negative things coming from my opponent, and we never addressed that. We just kept on plugging away and, never responded. And I got frequent comments from people that's why they voted for me, because I didn't buy into that.
Okay, so you didn't. It didn't turn into a big.
People don't like negativity.
Yeah,
and especially negative campaign. And this is the way I've always been. I think the majority of people are like this. I don't want to hear anything bad that you have to say about your opponent. I want to hear what you offer as a candidate, and we stuck to that, and it paid off.
Now, another thing that has happened since you were here last, it's been a couple of months, was the passing of former Sheriff Cochran. What kind of relationship did you have with Sheriff Cochran?
We were really close. I worked for him in different capacities throughout my entire career. Worked with him or for him at the police department, and he was my lieutenant in narcotics. When I was there, and then when he came to the sheriff's office, we kind of put that bond together again, and he helped me throughout my career, just kind of guide me, because he's one of these people that you could always bounce questions off of, and even after I took office, we talked frequently when maybe I encountered something I hadn't. There wasn't much I hadn't really encountered operational wise, but politically I hadn't. So he was always a great mind to bounce that off of, because there wasn't much that he hadn't encountered in that world.
So he was a resource for you in terms of some of your professional development.
I mean, he was
for both of you.
He was a mentor. I mean, that's there's no better way to say it. And I relied a lot on his thoughts. And
what made him so good at what he did? Because he was one of these. He was one of these names in Mobile that you got the feeling that if he ran for whatever he ran for, he was going to win it. People obviously had confidence in him. Why didn't people have that confidence in him?
Just because he was very transparent, and he liked engaging people, and he always did the right thing, and that means a lot. And that's one of the things he would talk about frequently. To me, probably one of his best talents, and I've tried to develop this from him and operate in the same manner, is he had a knack for identifying somebody that is a potential leader in law enforcement down the road, and would help guide them through their career to help them reach that success. And so far I've been able to do that as well, but that's something I learned from him, I've always felt that way, but I learned to develop those skills and identifying different things to look for, and he shared with me some of the things he would look for, and so it's working well.
Well, for somebody that wants a career in law enforcement, what kind of qualities should they try to develop to be noticed?
Good character. That's one of the first things we look at when you apply is we're going to look at your social media. So
okay,
good character. And have a heart for service, because I mean this the pay isn't horrible, but it's not great. You have to get in it for the right reasons, and a lot of times you can just by the interviews you do from references, and because we don't just talk to the people they put on paper as a reference, they're going to say good things, but we look for good character, obviously good communication, writing skills, but and I'm more so, was talking about those who may be wanting to rise in the ranks within the agency. I mean, I look at and see who makes an effort to stand out and not just come to work, do the bare minimum, and go home. And we fortunately do have a pretty good number of people who fit in that category. They want to shine while they're at work.
Well, there's such an aspect of law enforcement, being a sheriff's deputy, that seems to be a sacrifice in terms of, even if you love the job, you're often working shift work that can affect your family life. You're in danger, that can affect the family life. There seems to be an element of sacrifice, even if the pay's great. There's a price to be paid.
Absolutely. I mean, that one split second can change all that in any given situation. And the men and women that and I can only speak for those who work within the sheriff's office and other agencies in Mobile County. We have a really good law enforcement community throughout Mobile County. Mobile PD has done a fantastic job in their recruiting and hiring, and they've got a lot of good officers. The chief will get mad, but unfortunately, I have to steal some of those sometimes.
Right. Well, yeah.
But we don't go out and recruit, people from Mobile PD.